A man is standing outside a police station at midnight, staring at a phone that isn't his, and what he finds on that screen is about to blow an entire family apart. If you thought this family had already seen its worst days, wait until you hear what happens next, because tonight's episode of Homecoming turns everything you thought you knew about Chauvin, Zethu, and this so-called organ trafficking ring completely upside down. Let's get straight into it, because there is so much to unpack from this August 17th episode, and honestly, some of you are not ready for where this storyline is heading. We start where we left off last time, with Garage absolutely refusing to let go of the search for his sister Zethu. Ever since Zethu vanished, Garage has been a man possessed, chasing every lead, knocking on every door, and refusing to believe the story that she simply left town on her own. And can we just say, at this point, his instincts have been right every single time. While everyone around him kept telling him to calm down, to give it time, to trust that Zethu was a grown woman who could take care of herself, Garage kept pushing, and tonight we finally see why that stubbornness was worth it. The episode opens with Garage tracking down a phone that once belonged to Chauvin, and inside it he finds a string of messages that make his blood run cold. One message in particular stands out, a message telling Zethu to stay hidden and not contact anyone for now. Garage reads it over and over, and you can see the exact moment his suspicion turns into certainty. This is not a missing person case anymore in his mind. This is a cover-up, and Chauvin is at the center of it. Now here's where things get tense. Garage confronts Chauvin directly, no more circling around, no more polite questions. He wants answers and he wants them now. Chauvin, of course, plays it cool at first, doing what Chauvin always does, which is deny, deflect, and act offended that anyone would dare accuse him of something so serious. He claims he barely knows Zethu, that he has no idea what Garage is talking about, and that Garage is grasping at straws because he can't accept that his sister chose to disappear. But Garage isn't buying it, not for a second, and honestly, neither are we. The way Chauvin's eyes shift when Garage mentions the phone tells its own story. What makes this confrontation so powerful is the setting. It doesn't happen in some quiet corner. It happens in public, with people watching, which means Chauvin has to keep his composure even as Garage is practically shaking with rage in front of him. There's a moment where Garage gets right up in his face and asks him plainly what he has done with Zethu, and for the first time all season, we see a crack in Chauvin's confidence. Just a flicker, but it's there, and it tells us that this man knows exactly where Zethu is and exactly what has been happening to her. Meanwhile, back at the house, things are unraveling for Chauvin on another front entirely. Onkobo has had enough. After everything that has come out about her husband's business dealings and his connection to this shady operation, she is done pretending that her marriage is something worth saving. In one of the most talked about scenes of the night, Onkobo sits Chauvin down and tells him flat out that she is filing for divorce. No shouting, no dramatic tears, just a cold, calm declaration that she is moving on with her life. And can we talk about how satisfying that scene was? After everything Onkobo has put up with, watching her finally stand in her own power and walk away from a man who has clearly been living a double life feels like a long time coming. What's interesting is that Onkobo isn't just walking away quietly either. She makes it clear that she is not going to sit back and pretend she didn't see the signs. She tells Chauvin that she knows something is wrong, that she has noticed the late nights, the secretive phone calls, the strange visitors, and that she refuses to raise her family under the shadow of whatever he is involved in. It's a scene that shows just how much Onkobo has grown this season, from a woman who used to make excuses for her husband to a woman who is done being lied to. And here's the twist that a lot of viewers didn't see coming. Instead of retreating after being confronted by both Garage and his own wife in the same episode, Chauvin starts to realize that Onkobo could actually become an unexpected ally in this mess. Because once Onkobo starts putting the pieces together herself, she begins quietly working with Garage to figure out what really happened to Zethu. She may be done with her marriage, but she is not done seeking the truth, and that puts her directly in Garage's corner, whether Shobane likes it or not. Now let's talk about Shwabi, because this episode gives us a much clearer look at exactly how deep his involvement goes. We already knew Shwabi had been out on bail after his earlier arrest, but tonight we see him doing everything in his power to keep the operation running, bringing in new clients who are desperate enough to pay for organs on the black market, and pressuring Shobane to keep performing procedures that put lives directly at risk. There's a chilling scene where Shwabi tells Shobane that a client needs a specific procedure done quickly, no questions asked, and that they simply cannot afford to lose this deal. Shobane hesitates, and for a second it looks like maybe, just maybe, his conscience is catching up with him. But Shwabi is relentless, reminding him of the money, the lifestyle, everything he stands to lose if he backs out now. This is where the show does something really clever, because it forces us to ask whether Shobane is a monster by choice or a man who got in too deep and can't find a way out. He's clearly terrified of what will happen if he crosses Shwabi, but he's also fully aware that every day this operation continues, more people get hurt, and Zethu remains in danger because of what she knows. It's uncomfortable to watch, but it's compelling television, because you genuinely don't know which way he is going to break. Speaking of Zethu, we finally get an update on her situation tonight, and it is not good news. It becomes clear that Zethu has stumbled onto evidence proving that this organ trafficking operation has been running for years across the region, and that she was actively trying to investigate it before she went missing. In a flashback sequence, we see her traveling to speak with a doctor who had already been arrested in connection with these illegal operations, trying to get him to talk, trying to build a case strong enough to expose the whole network. It's a brave move, but it's also exactly what put the target on her back in the first place. The episode strongly hints that Shobane and Shwabi see Zethu as a direct threat to everything they've built, and there's a genuinely unsettling exchange between the two men where Shwabi essentially tells Shobane that they cannot risk her getting out there and exposing the operation. He doesn't say the word out loud, but the implication hangs heavy in the air, and it's enough to make your stomach turn. Is Shobane capable of going that far to protect himself? The show keeps us guessing, and honestly, that uncertainty is what makes this storyline so gripping. There's also a quieter, more emotional thread running through tonight's episode involving Shobane's mother. We see her struggling to reconcile the son she raised with the man everyone is now accusing him of being. She refuses to believe the worst, defending him even as more and more evidence piles up against him, and there's a heartbreaking moment where she admits that she always worried something like this could happen, that she saw warning signs years ago and chose to ignore them because he was her child. It's a small scene, but it adds a layer of humanity to a storyline that could easily have felt one-dimensional. This isn't just about crime and cover-ups, it's about a family being torn apart by choices one man made long before any of this came to light. Now let's shift over to the subplot involving Kaptini and Nyanya, because this episode gives us some genuinely shocking developments there too. It turns out that Kaptini has been running a scam this entire time, and Nyanya, who believed they had something real, ends up on the receiving end of a betrayal that leaves her humiliated and financially wrecked. We see her sitting outside the police station, trying to work up the courage to report what happened, clearly torn between embarrassment and anger. It's a smaller storyline compared to the main organ trafficking drama, but it ties in thematically, because once again we are watching a story about trust being exploited by people who only care about money. There's a particularly cutting line from one of the side characters who points out that Kaptini and Shobane aren't all that different when you strip everything back, because both men have built their lives on deception and both have left a trail of people who trusted them and paid the price for it. It's a small moment of commentary, but it lands, and it reinforces the episode's larger theme about greed and the damage it leaves behind. By the final act of the episode, tensions are at an absolute peak. Garage is closer than ever to finding concrete proof of what happened to his sister. Nkobo has fully committed to helping him even as her own marriage collapses around her, and Shobane is caught between his loyalty to Shwabi and the growing realization that his entire world is about to fall apart. The episode ends on a genuinely tense note, with Shobane receiving a phone call that visibly shakes him, though we don't get to hear exactly what was said. All we see is his face go pale as he mutters that they need to move Zethu immediately, and then the screen cuts to black. It's the kind of cliffhanger that leaves you yelling at your screen, because after everything we've learned tonight, the idea that Zethu might be moved somewhere even harder to find is terrifying. Garage has come so close, and now it feels like the ground has shifted beneath him all over again. What really stands out about this episode is how the show manages to juggle so many moving pieces without losing focus. We've got a missing persons investigation, a crumbling marriage, an organ trafficking conspiracy, a mother in denial, and a separate betrayal storyline involving Kaptini and Nyanya, and somehow it all threads together into one cohesive, tense hour of television. The performances carry a lot of the weight here too, especially from the actors playing Garage and Nkobo, who bring real emotional depth to characters who could easily have felt like plot devices in a lesser show. There's also something to be said about the pacing. Instead of rushing to reveal everything at once, the writers are clearly taking their time to build tension, dropping small clues and letting characters slowly connect the dots in a way that feels earned rather than convenient. Garage finding that phone wasn't some lucky coincidence, it was the payoff of weeks of him refusing to give up, and that kind of storytelling rewards viewers who have been paying attention. As for where things go from here, there are a few big questions hanging over the next episode. Will Nkobo and Garage manage to find Zethu before Shobane and Shwabi can move her? Will Shobane's conscience finally win out over his fear of Shwabi, or will he go along with whatever comes next no matter the cost? And what happens to Shwabi now that his own operation is under this much scrutiny, with police clearly starting to circle closer? There's also the lingering question of what role the mother will play going forward, because her refusal to accept the truth about her son could end up being either his downfall or his last line of defense. One thing is certain, this storyline is only getting more intense from here, and if tonight's episode is anything to go by, the writers are not holding back. Every relationship in this show is being tested, every character is being pushed to their limit, and nobody's hands are staying clean for much longer. So that's everything from tonight's episode of Homecoming. Garage is closer than ever to finding his sister, Nkobo has finally taken her power back, and Shobane is running out of places to hide. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen to Zethu, and whether you believe Shobane still has any humanity left in him after everything we've seen tonight. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next recap, because based on how this episode ended, next week is going to be even bigger. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.